You must not lose trust in people, even though you will get disappointed and sometimes even betrayed. So besides next to school, while I was still in school, I volunteered in a hospital. My job there was to deliver the food to the patients. And then to supplement my pocket money, I worked at a small bed and breakfast, and I did prepare the breakfast service there very, very early in the morning, which is absolutely not my time. But my first formal and official job was an apprenticeship in Berlin. I worked with the Edeka Group, which is one of the biggest retailers in Germany. Apprenticeship, vocationally training is very strongly ingrained in the German educational system. I think something about more than 70% of all people graduating from high school, before they even go to university, they do that. And it's a dual system where you have theory a couple of days a week where you go to school, and the other remaining days of the week you go to work. And I studied that for 2 years to become wholesaler in export trade. I never planned any career. What I do today is not a result of me carefully choosing whom I associate myself with, what university I go to, what school I attend. I just always, in anything I do, I always gave it my all, because I believe when you do something, you might as well do it 100% committed, because it's a part of you. You can't actually fool yourself in that sense. I think the biggest contributor to who I am today, and as a result what I have achieved, would be my mother. She instilled a lot of trust in me. She made me believe everything was possible. She is a role model to whatever I did in life, because she did it. She left apartheid South Africa in '59 only to come live in Germany, in a small town on the Dutch border, where she was very foreign. She was actually the first person of color to be ever seen in that place. So I think that's pretty bold. Against all odds, against what her parents recommended her to do, against what was politically correct in South Africa at the time, against what the post-war Germany was thinking was normal. So she really taught this to my sister and myself, and she always instilled in us the sense that we should be true to ourselves. We should never over-comply to fit into something we don't believe in, and just persevere. That's what I got from my mom, and that's what I think is the biggest part of me today. I really do sleep very well, and I enjoy my sleep. I've got really awesome dreams, and sometimes I don't even want to wake up from those dreams. It's not like I'm living in my dreams. It's just so fascinating what I dream about. But it happens the odd night that I can't sleep, and then it's mostly that I ponder over something really neglectable, some task or project that keeps me busy during the day, but not a major challenge. So everybody would agree to me, I think that at night small things become big. And so I guess the best thing is not to try and force yourself to have to sleep, because sleep is also overrated. I mean, if one really can't sleep, and that happens to me very seldom, then I just stay awake, and then I pray or meditate, and meditation or praying is kind of the same thing for me. I find it challenging to lead people. I enjoy it a lot, and I will continue doing it, but I think that's also the biggest challenge, because you never know what you get, and you must not lose trust in people, even though you will get disappointed and sometimes even betrayed. People try to bypass you, there are envious people out there, and a lot of disappointment is coming your way. But there are always those stars in between people that you see talent in and whose careers you can fast track, and they are all worth the disappointment you might get. So the biggest challenge is leadership, and again, also the thing I like to do most. so if you pitch, again, be authentic in anything you do. So it's often required that a pitch has to be, is molded into a framework, like you have got 10 minutes and these are the exact questions and that is the agenda and the index, you can't divert from it. So I understand why that is and it makes sense. But I still think if you have the time, the most important part is to tell a story and to relate to the people in the room or the people you pitch towards. Make eye contact, try to find an analogy that brings your story across a bit more in a tangible way than in a technical way. So I would say make it a relatable story and engage with the people in the room. Yes, I do, and it's obviously harder for women, but I would also think that some men are intimidated by other men or by women. I think it's still not a level playing field. Diversity and inclusion is something we hear in our everyday life, but is it really lived? I think it still takes a few years until we can really say that there's a fair play happening. So until that day, I guess women can feel intimidated at times. I mean, the vast majority of CEOs are still white men, with about 60%. So that can be quite daunting for some women, but it shouldn't be, because they also just boil with water. They're humans. They are not superpower people, but that hasn't got anything to do with the gender. It's just that there's no balance, and I think a balance would be good to spur creative problem solving, innovation, and everybody should feel welcome at their place of work, and they should all know that they can be authentic and their true selves. And in a very male-dominated environment, that's sometimes not the case. Everybody is cloning and copycatting what the other one does, and that is quite boring. Yeah, I'm all for diversity, and I think as long as we haven't reached that, it can be quite intimidating at times, but it shouldn't be. I would tell her you're in for a ride, Birgit. Brace yourself. You can do way more than you think you can. It's really going to be exciting. Don't be shy. Believe in your abilities. Don't get flustered about, what if and what cannot be and what people think. As I said before, just believe in yourself. Find out what you're good at and then go for it and be resilient. As I already was when I was 21 or 22, so just be more resilient, never give up. During my vocational training, which started at 7 o'clock in the morning, our work hours was from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Since I'm not a morning person, I thought I'm never going to be able to stick that out. Also, I was in my early 20s, I wanted to party, which I did. I stayed out half the night. I had a few hours of sleep and then had to go to work, and it kind of felt like this is not my authentic self. Other people would call me Mrs. Lever, that was my maiden name, and I felt it was all way too formal for me. And I tried to fit into the environment until I realized that I have to be authentic and I have to be my true self. I can't hide away my true self when I spend time as much as 8 hours at a place that I call work. Authenticity is the thing that I've learned, to just not try to portray you someone else, and never ever try to fit in with somebody, what you think somebody else expects of you to be, because you actually don't know what they think of you. You can't control their beliefs and their opinions, so just be yourself. I think that's very important in whatever one does in life. I visited Cape Town for the first time in 1991 together with my boyfriend Götz, who's now my husband. We traveled the whole country of South Africa. We flew into Johannesburg and we went all the way to Durban along the garden route, and eventually we ended up in Cape Town, and we really enjoyed our time here. In fact, in 91, while we were still busy studying, we decided we would like to live here. We actually contacted the German Chamber of Commerce. but they said we should go back to Germany to complete our studies, which we also did. And then years later, I was working in the airline industry. I was working for Lufthansa, and my husband and I, by that time we got married and we already had a child. We always wanted to go live overseas, and we still had South Africa on our radar. But Götz also has family in Chile, so we also contemplated on going to Santiago de Chile. But then I applied for a position within Lufthansa, and I said I would like to go overseas for them, and the application was for an overseas position. But I didn't know that they would send me to Cape Town. And when I finally made it through all the assessment centers and interviews and what have you not, and I got offered the job, I asked them, where am I going to go? And my then boss said that that was Cape Town, if I had anything against Cape Town. And of course I didn't. I was really delighted, and we moved here because my application had nothing to do with my heritage or Cape Town. It was really going out of, leaving Germany, and that it happened to be Cape Town was very welcome. We are filling a gap here. We really found a solution to a big problem. We bring trust and simplicity to the equation. Right now, the events industry is the absolute Wild West. There is no barrier to entry, there is no regulation, there is no transparency. It's basically a hit and miss. If you find an event supplier, you really don't know if they can deliver on their promise. So everything is about today's world, word of mouth and who knows who. So you don't really can make an informed decision by finding out who's actually available in your location, what have their previous clients said about their service offering. And that's what we do at Eventerprise. And I think that that's very much needed to also get some more innovation into the event space. And it's a growing space. That's the next thing that attracts me. It's this sheer scale the industry has globally and locally, whether it's private or corporate. And the last thing that really attracts me personally is also I'm a customer advocate. I've always been in customer service and in customer success. And I think it's high time that the customer gets the power back, and that the customer is treated in a fair and on a level footing. And I think we do that at Eventerprise by giving the customer better transparency and helping them in their interaction. Raising funds is like selling, it's like leading. So you have to relate to people, you have to tell them the story, a story that you are convinced of, which I thoroughly am. I'm very convinced of our business case here with Eventerprise. And conveying that conviction and also that enthusiasm, coupled with a solid business case, of course, with a strategic plan that you really know what you're talking about, and then kind of pitching that, selling that to the audience, and again, leading, relating to what they want, which is obviously a good return on their investment, but also generate their enthusiasm for the industry that we're in, for the particular stuff that we are doing at Eventerprise, i.e. connecting the world of events, being the platform and soon go-to marketplace, where on the one hand side you've got the vendors and on the other hand side you've got the host, the clients, and telling them everything about that value creating relationship. That's what makes an investor hopefully look up and hear up and getting interested in Eventerprise.